Yo, what is up, you guys? APJ here, and I wanted to showcase my Tearlaments deck list. So, this deck has been performing very well this format. I'm talking about post-Suda format. And yes, this deck is surprisingly very strong this format. I've been taking it to a bunch of tournaments around me, and I've been getting either first, second, or fourth. So, yeah, I've been topping every single tournament that I've been playing this deck in, and it's been performing super well. If you want a deck list that is not meta, but that can beat the meta, and that can also beat Rogue, because this deck is also very good against Rogue decks, this is the deck for you. Now, the thing is, this deck, if you never played Tier before, you're probably not going to have success with it. But I've been playing this deck ever since it came out, so I know the ins and outs of Tier. And ever since Grass was legal, I wanted to break this deck and make it possible to work. And now with the Fiendsmith cards, I feel like the Fiendsmith cards are the closest thing that we have to Ishizu cards. So, yeah, this deck just becomes much better with them in the format. And by playing them in your deck, it just makes your deck so much better. So, yeah, I want to showcase my list that I've been pretty much topping every single tournament with. So, the results speak for itself. This deck has been performing super well. So, first up, we have one Sharon, one Havnus, and one Merly for the names. So obviously, Sharon is really good. It's a level 4 extender, but the level doesn't matter in this deck because I don't play Redoer. But the fact that it's an extender that helps you keep on milling from your deck, and it can get you access to triggering your names if you do draw them. So let's say you draw Sharon plus one of these. Sharon can send one of these, mill 3 cards, summon itself, and then trigger one of the names. It could do that with also Malicious and Rhinoheart and Tearlaments Kashtira. So this card is a really good extender for your deck. It also helps you play around Nibiru too, because you don't even have to link summon with this card. You could just leave it on the board while you're comboing. And if they ever Nibiru they're gonna tribute the Sharon, and then the Sharon will trigger in the graveyard to fusion summon. So this card is super strong to play around Nibiru too. Even though this deck doesn't really care about Nibiru, sometimes it comes up, so it's really good to have that option. Havnus is the first name that you usually dump with Rhinoheart, because this is the name that you don't want to summon on your first turn, and the name that you can't directly get access to from the deck if you don't use Rhinoheart. So this is why this is always the first name to send. But its hand trap effect is really good. At the end of your combo, you can search this with Planet if you don't need a Sharon or if you don't need a Rhinoheart and you already had access to those, or you don't need a Kashtira and you already have access to those. You can just search a Havnus at the end of your combo to always ensure that your Sulliek is live, your Meta Noise is live, your Crime is live, or your Scream is live, basically. So Havnus is really good for both of its effects. And Merly, this card, when you draw it, it's a good normal summon. But you ideally don't want to draw it ever. You want to always use this lane last, since this is a level 2 monster, and you can directly access this from the deck no matter what, because you have Sprint in your extra deck. And Sprint being able to dump this is broken. So this is why this is the name you always use last in your combo. And it's very, very strong for that reason, because basically if you have access to Rhinoheart, you can always guarantee 2 names, because Rhinoheart will dump the Havnus and the Sprint will dump the Sharon. So being able to always rely on Sprint to guarantee a fusion summon is really, really strong. So yep, the Merly, and all these cards I have one for a reason, because they're all broken. Both of their effects are broken on each of these cards. So yep. And then we play 3 Tearlaments Rhinoheart. We have to play 3 of this card. I don't know why my camera's bugging, but yeah, we have to play 3 of this card. This card is super strong. The reason why you play 3 is because this card is a very good mill in your deck. You want to mill this card, even though it's your main normal summon, you don't have to normal summon this card. That's the beautiful thing about this deck, is that there's no normal summon every single game that you prioritize. Obviously, you want to prioritize this one, right? But sometimes you don't even need to, because you'll mill it, or you don't even need it. You rather just normal summon something else. But other than that, you have to play 3 of this card because you want to mill this card on your turn and on your opponent's turn. So by playing 3, you maximize that chance. This card is super strong. with its graveyard effect and its on-field effect. Being able to dump a tier name directly from deck so you can get access to a fusion summon is really strong. This being a water monster level 4 is really good because that means you can make Bahamut Shark Toad with this and Mud Dragon, which is really, really strong. But also, you can do a play where if you do mill this and you have a way to search another one and a way to make Mud Dragon, so basically you have a Dark in the Grave and you mill this card, plus you have another one in hand, you can summon the other one by discarding a different tier card, not the second Rhino Heart. Summon this, use the effect, dump Havnus effect in the graveyard, make Mud Dragon, and then you can normal summon the one that you have in hand and use the 2 Rhino Hearts to overlay into a Shark and keep the Mud Dragon on the board so that the Shark can play around Impermanence and a Baylor. So there's a lot of cool plays that you can do with this card, which is why I think it's for sure 3 of. Definitely your main normal summon, but you don't have to normal summon this every game in order to win. So that's the beautiful thing about this card. And then your best extender in the deck is 3 Tearlaments Kashtira. This card is insane. The only bad thing about it is that you can't fusion summon with it, and it's not a starter. Other than that, it's insane. You just use it to link climb with, though. You don't really care if you can't fuse with it, because it's one of your best extenders to link climb with. On summon, it'll mill you 3 cards from you or your opponent's deck. So if your opponent mills a lot of cards, you can deck them out with this card plus Zombie Vampire and Pilgrim Reaper, which is kind of funny. I did do that to one of my opponents. After my opponent full comboed, he had like 6 cards in deck, so I just summoned this on my turn, milled his 3 cards, and summoned a Pilgrim Reaper, and that was game. He had no way to stop both of them, so yeah, that was pretty funny. So this can actually be a win condition, but usually you don't use it for that effect. You always want to mill your deck. So on summon, it mills 3 cards, which is really good, and then when you mill it, it mills 2 extra cards, so this card by itself can mill 5, basically. Which is really, really strong. And it's probably the most searchable extender in your deck because there's so many cards that get access to this card. There's Soliak, there's Planet, there's Fenrir. So this card can be searched way more than any of the other cards in your deck, which is really strong as well. So definitely 3 of this card. And that's it for the Tearlaments monsters. And the only honorary tier monster that I play is 3 Tearlaments Destiny Hero Malicious. They should have routed this card to have tier limit in the name. But this card is the only other good mill that I play for the Tearlament engine in terms of the monsters. What I mean by that is I don't play Shufflers, I don't play Shaddoll Beast, I don't play any Shaddolls at all, I don't play Night Sword Serpent, I don't play any of those bricks because they're just not better than this card. This card is just better because this will give you a double extender if you hit it. And you can use it to link climb, to break boards. You can use it to link climb to combo going first, to go into your Fiendsmith lines, or to go into your Spren lines, or to make SP with this card going first or second. So this card is just super strong as an extender, and the only really good extender that you have access to for tier that's a good mill, that you don't even mind drawing because it also combos with Sharon. If you do draw it, you can get out of your hand with Sharon. You can also get out of your hand with the Horus cards, so this card being drawn is not even bad. But this is the only one that I prioritize because of its level and of its effect and its attribute. This being a dark to make Mud Dragon is also important too. So yeah, that's why it's specifically malicious and nothing else. The issue is that all the other ones are just bad right now. Like the Shufflers are just not good enough right now. They just don't do anything in the format. You might say they're good against Fiendsmith engine, but the thing is they can just re-access the Fiendsmith engine with 2 monsters. So it doesn't really like make sense to shuffle those cards back because they just can access them from the deck again. So yeah, that's why the Shufflers are bad, and the Shaddolls are just bad in general because they're terrible draws. Like I don't want to draw bad cards, and I want to play more non-engine that helps me play the game. The Shaddolls just only make your mills more high rolly, but they don't help you play the game. The issue is with this deck is that you need a way to actually play the game. So that's why I don't play any of those bricks. This is the only one. But this is not really a brick because you have multiple ways to get it out of your hand and get value out of it. So 3 malicious. And that's it for the monsters, for the Tearlament engine. For the spells and traps, I play 2 planet. This card is very, very strong, but you don't need 3 of it. and I'll explain why later. I play a grass, obviously, and then I play 3 foolish goods, and I play a foolish burial as well. So let me talk about foolish burial first. So I still play the foolish burial even though I'm not playing shufflers, because this can still grab any Tearlaments monster from the deck and trigger its effect, but also it can still grab malicious, which is still really strong. So any of these cards foolish can send still, and they're all still really good targets for foolish. And this card is an easy side out going second, so that's why this card is still really good for your deck, and why I still play it. And then this card, well, grass, obviously, yeah, this card's insane and it's searchable. Nothing to really say there. This is the reason why you play 60 cards, because of this card. This card is absolutely insane. The most I milled with grass was against my opponent that has 6 cards left in deck, and I decked him out. I grassed and had 6 cards left in deck as well. That it was the most insane grass, but the thing is, I was under Dweller, so I only used the grass because I had King Sark in hand. I only used the grass to mill the Horus monsters, so I can activate my King Sark, bait out his interruption, and then talents him and cook him after that. So this card was, but other than that, when you don't get Dweller, it's just the best card in your deck. And even if you do get Dweller, sometimes you still have to use it in certain scenarios. So yeah, but this card is insane. And then these cards. So the thing is, I played 2 planet but 3 foolish goods because this card is just better. With Detonator being in the format, it's not good to rely on field spells, which is why I don't play Race Saw, Terraforming, or the Horse field spell, and I don't play Rainbow Bridge either, as you'll see later on. So, because it's just not good to rely on field spells in the format right now. This card's not a 1-card starter. Like, if you just draw this card with no graveyard setup, it doesn't do anything. So that's why this card is at 2. Also, you don't want to open this card. This is the main card that you want to search with your Trivia Karma. So if you open it, that means your Trivia Karma has nothing good to search as well. So this is why you also play 2 of this card. And I've been loving 2 of this card in this deck. I haven't bricked on it ever. It's been working out for me like beautifully. I've never milled like 2 copies right away before I use Trivia Karma. So yeah, it's just never backfired. It's been actually very, very good for me that I've been playing 2 of this card. I've been really liking it a lot. And the reason why I play more of these cards, because this card basically gets you the access to this card, but also this card is a board breaker going second, because it can send Blackout Laughs, which is a mini board breaker for your deck, which is pretty insane. So the versatility of this card makes this card better because it plays around Detonator better, and it's also the best starter because it doesn't have to grab Trivia Karma as well. It can also grab Sulliak if you already drew the field spell plus this. If you drew both of these, then this can just dump Sulliak and get a free search, and then this can get another search, and you can still combo that way. So yeah, that's why 3 foolish goods is definitely better than 3 of this, because this card's more versatile and better into the format, better into Detonator, better into pretty much every single board. So yep, that is it for the consistency spells. And then for the spells and traps that are good mills, I play 3 Tearlaments Scream. I play 1 Tearlaments Grief, 2 Tearlaments Sulliak, 1 Tearlaments Meta Noise, 2 Trivia Karma, 1 Blackout Laughs, and 1 Fiendsmith in Paradise. So these are the spells and traps that I want to mill in the deck. So let me talk about Scream first and the Grief. So these cards are really, really good game 1. You want to have access to these as much as possible. The thing is with Scream is that game 1, it helps you mill, basically start your milling, which is what you want to do in this deck. But also it is a good mill in general because the searches are really strong interruption for your opponent's turn. So this card, both effects are really good. And a lot of people forget about the minus 500 effect, but it actually matters because when you have Scream plus Planet, the difference is 1,000 because your guys gain 5, their guys lose 5, and that can actually matter in a game in this deck because all your guys that you summon are pretty big. So it's actually pretty hard for your opponent to get rid of your cards with this up plus Planet. And even if you don't have Planet up, just this, it's still really annoying for your opponent sometimes. So Yeah, because it makes it so like a Bestial can't just like beat over a Toad. They actually have to like crash their Jerusalem and then get the effect. So it makes it like a little bit awkward for your opponent to beat over your board or play into your board. And this being able to mill through cards is still like really strong in your turn and your opponent's turn. So yeah, both effects of it are really good. And this card always gets sided out going second. I always side two of these cards out going second against any matchup because this card going second is not ideal. Doesn't really do anything for you going second. Doesn't help you play the game going second. But going first, you definitely want to have three of this card in your deck. And then the one Grief. This card is really strong as a one of. You only need one of it, but when it comes up, it literally wins you the game for both effects. This is the reason why you play it in this deck, because both effects are good. Since you see I play both traps, I don't play just one. The Grief actually gets insane value in this deck, because if I mill a Soliek, most likely I'll mill a Soliek before I mill a Meta Noise, because I play two of it, right? So for example, if I mill a Soliek, right, I search the Tear Cache, then I use Tear Cache to banish this to summon it. Later on, if I end my combo with Planet plus Kaleido, I can use the Planet to pop my Kaleido Heart, dump Grief, and grab back the Soliek. And if I didn't use Scream that turn, then Scream can search the Meta Noise, so I can end on both traps on my turn one board, which is really strong. So Grief enables that with its mill effect, but with its on-field effect, it's also really strong because, for example, when they Bestial you or when they interrupt your names from fusing, this will guarantee basically a name to fuse with, but it can also guarantee Rhino Heart's effect to go off as well, because you can summon Rhino, send Rhino, and then trigger Rhino's effect in the graveyard to summon back. So this card's a really strong extender that basically guarantees you a name, because sometimes Trivy Karma is not good to search your field spell with. Sometimes you need a card like this to search, and it will come up when you're playing this deck because you go into grinding games a lot. So if your opponent's hand trapping you a lot, this card will win you the game, or in a grind game, it will win you the game as well to have this as a search target. So this card's actually really strong, and definitely play it. But only one copy is fine. And then 2 Soliek and a Meta Noise. Before I was a big proponent of 3 Soliek, but then I realized in this format, Meta Noise, both effects are actually really insane right now. Way better than the 3rd Soliek. And Soliek, I never side out because it's probably like your second best mill in the deck. And it's like your best interruption to search as well. It's the best interruption that's searchable in the deck. So I never side this card out because I want to mill it. Also going second. So I always keep it in my deck at 2. But this card I side out going second, but going first, both of its effects are insane, especially in a grind game, because adding back follow-up is really good, but also the book effect, and then you send a Tearlaments monster from the deck to the graveyard, is really strong as well in a format where a lot of people are playing Castira cards or Exceed monsters, so the book effect actually comes up a lot as well. So this card's a really strong interruption, but also really strong to grab follow-up with. So I've been liking the Meta Noise a lot, and 2 Soliek I stand by as well. You have to at least play 2 of this card. You don't have to play 3, but you definitely cannot play 1. But the Meta Noise I've been liking a lot better than the 3rd Soliek. And then the best mill in the deck, but not a 3. Before I was playing 3 copies of this card, and then I've done testing with the deck, and I was just kept working on 2 of this. I kept drawing 2, which was not ideal, and I kept drawing 2 with no way to get rid of it. So yeah, it was just not ideal. So I cut it to 2 because I realized that Foolish Burial Goods is usually always grabbing this, so you don't need 3 copies, but you don't want to play 1 because you also want to have a second one in the deck for follow-up. While you're milling your deck, you already resolved it, and you mill another one, you know that you guarantee a follow-up with this card, which is really nice. But this card is the best mill in the deck because this card says you can banish this card from the graveyard and search any card that mentions Visa Starfrost. And guess what? All your Tearlaments spells and traps mention it, including your field spell. So this card can search any Tearlaments monster because of this card, and any Tearlaments spells and trap because they all mention Visa. So this card literally searches your whole tier engine, which is why it's the best mill in your deck. And this is why you don't need to rely on Rainbow Bridge and stuff like that, because this card is so much better. Like, why would I mill a Rainbow Bridge when I can mill this card, guarantee my field spell, and continue playing? Like, this is a card I was already going to play in my deck, and it doesn't have to add bricks to the deck. Like Rainbow Bridge, you add 2 more bricks for the Rainbow Bridge itself. Then you have to add another brick for the Crystal Beast card. Then you have to add 2 more bricks for a 3rd King Sark and the Horus Field spell. And you have to have the Wraithoth, which is another brick. So you have to have so many bricks to your deck in order to play Rainbow Bridge when you could just rely on milling this. Like, this card is just so much better, more consistent. Like, my mills are just way more consistent. Every single game, they're going to be good. But Rainbow Bridge, every single game, that card is not going to be good. So, yeah, it just makes no sense to play it. Just adding more bricks to your deck, it makes your deck worse. Going first and second, it makes your deck less consistent, because even though you're thinking you're adding consistency to the deck by adding more good mills, you're also adding more cards that you don't want to draw. Like, so it actually makes your deck less consistent by playing Rainbow Bridge, which is kind of funny, because you usually add that card to add consistency, but it actually does the opposite for your deck. So, yeah. And you have to play less non-engine, which I don't like either. I just don't like any aspect of Rainbow Bridge in this deck right now. It just doesn't make sense to play it, because this card is so much better, because it's more consistently good every single game than Rainbow Bridge will ever be. So just play this card. You don't have to play Rainbow Bridge. This card is so much better. And then the Blackout Laughs and the Fiendsmith of Paradise. These cards are insane too. This just enables Foolish Burial Goods to be a very broken versatile card. But also, if you just mill it during your combo, just an extra interruption on top of your board that they have to deal with. It's really strong. Both effects are really strong, because you can also set it with the rest game one if they hand trap you, but don't leave a monster on the board. So yeah, this card's super good. And then the Fiendsmith of Paradise, like I said, just more layered interruptions for your opponents to have to deal with. If they let you full combo you, then this card is just grabbing you follow-up as well, because you always end on Desiree with your end board. So if this card's in the graveyard, it's fine. This will just grab you follow-up instead of sending Desiree. So this card's still really good. And that is it for the tier engine. It's 30 cards. Yeah, I would not change a thing about the tier engine. I think it's literally perfect. And then for the next part of the deck, I play 3 Fiendsmith Engraver, 1 Lacrima, 1 Lurie, and 3 Fiendsmith Tract. So, I see a lot of lists online playing this ratio or this ratio. I have not seen a list yet play 3 Engraver, and I have never seen a list play 3 Tract. I've seen, I think, only 1 list play 3 Engraver, but they played 1 Tract. I don't understand how you don't max out of these cards in this deck. These cards are absolutely insane for your deck. These cards are the closest thing to Ishizu cards for your deck. Because what did the Ishizu cards do? They gave you extra extenders and extra ways to mill from your deck. These cards do the same exact thing. They give you extra extenders, and they make Pilgrim Reaper, which helps you mill for your deck. So why wouldn't you max these cards out? Not only that, the reason why I play 3 Tract is because resolving Tract in this deck is insane. Remember how I said Rhinoheart is your main normal summon, right? This card is your main normal summon, right? But you don't have to normal summon this. You can special summon this. So the thing is that you can do a Tract, which people forget, because Tract's effect, it discards for effect. So what does that mean? That means if you draw Tract and Soliek, for example, you can go Tract, add Lurie, discard Soliek, trigger the Soliek to search, and then you can normal summon the Lurie, make Requiem, and go into your Pilgrim Reaper. So resolving a Tract in this deck is also very insane, because it discards for effect, which means it triggers every single Tearlament card in your deck. Not only that, it's another way to get this card into the graveyard. So this is another reason why I decided to max out on this engine, because it also doesn't lose to Detonator like the Horus cards do. Thing is, Horus cards, King Sark, is really bad into Detonator, but these cards are really good into Detonator. So yeah, and drawing Engraver and Tract is also really good because it guarantees you the draw. But not only that, there's multiple ways to guarantee the draw with Necrocrypt in this deck. So you don't even care if you draw 2 Fiendsmith cards, because they're just so good. So yeah, I max out on this engine because I want to have access to this engine every single game. There's not a game where I don't want to have access to this because it's just way too good. It gives you a better grind game. It gives you extra extenders to play with. It gives you ways to mill from your deck. It gives you a starter too. So these cards just literally are insane for your deck. There's no reason to not max them out. And I never side these cards out. The trap card, I usually side out going second. But if it's against Fiendsmith or yugioh, sometimes I'll keep it in depending on how much time we have left. If there's like no time left, then I'll side this out because there's no point. But if there's still like a lot of time in the round, like 20 minutes left, I'll keep it in for the grind game. But other than that, I never side these cards out. These cards are just way too good. There's no reason to not max them out. They're just so good for your deck, and I don't understand how people just don't max these cards out. They're literally the closest thing to yugioh cards. Why wouldn't you max these out? You want to see them literally every game. The argument that people have is that, oh, but you use your monsters to link summon and get access to these cards anyway. But drawing these cards, their effects are really good for your deck too. Like, Resolving Tract is broken for your deck too. And I think people forgot that. So, yeah, I'm reminding them that max these cards out to play this deck correctly. Because these cards are way better than all the other options. And for your last extenders that I play are just the Horus cards. But I don't max them out because, like I said, they're really bad into Detonator right now. Surprisingly, these cards have been putting in a ton of work because they've been beating over Caesar constantly. Yeah, like the amount of times these cards beat over Caesar is actually insane. But other than that, they're really bad into Detonator because of King Sark. And this is your worst extender in the deck because it takes 3 cards in order for it to be good for your deck. So you need to activate the King Sark, which is 1 card, and you need to discard two more cards, which is 3, to get your 2 bodies, summon them, and make a vampire and start playing. So that's why King Sark is the worst starter. And you always side 1 out going second. But game 1, you definitely need 2 of this card just in case, because you don't want to start with Mseti, and you don't want to start with King Sark. You want to use it later as an extender when they like hand trap you. So that's why you need the second one, because if you don't start with it, and you mill 1, you need the second one in the deck to search for the Mseti. So yeah, but other than that, these cards are really good for extending, clearing boards, and helping you combo with Vampire or just Link Climbing, because you can just turn these into Moon as well. So yeah, these cards are very good, but not cards you want to rely on, which is why I play it in this ratio. And this has been working out for me a lot. I see lists prioritize this and Rainbow Bridge. I just think that's incorrect, this format. There's just no reason to, because Fiendsmith cards are just way better into the format, way better into boards. These cards out Caesar, but they're really bad into Detonator, so yeah. And then that is it for my engine. It's a 44 card engine. I wouldn't change a thing. I think the engine has been working out very, very well for me. I would not change a thing at all for the engine. Now, for the non-engine, I play 3 Fenrir. So, this card is non-engine for my deck, and I'll tell you why. So, people think Fenrir is engine. It is not. Fenrir by itself is not a starter. In fact, it is a double extender. It's a really good double extender, because you summon it, you use as an extender, you search another extender in the form of Tearlaments Castera, and then you can summon that extender by just linking off the Fenrir, getting into the graveyard, and now you can summon the Tear Cache. So it's really good going first and second to combo with as an extender, and it has benefits going second because it also can out cards. So this card as a non-engine card is really good because it's always good going first. You never side this out because it's always going to be good going first and second for your deck. It just has a bonus effect of being a miniature board breaker and baiting out cards like Impermanence, Veiler, Ash, Detonator, or whatever. So this card is really good for your deck specifically. And why I consider it non-engine is because it's not a starter card. It's a really good extender and mini board breaker. But other than that, you don't really care if you don't see this card. It's a strong card for your deck though. But I don't play Terraforming and Race Off for it because those cards lose the Detonator. I'd rather Haldra this into Detonator because if I summon it and they pop, and I use the effect of search and they pop it, I can still summon the Tear Cache after, so it's fine. And then for the cards that are specifically good for going second, but also synergize with your deck, are 3 Molcharmy, Perulia, and 3 Forbidden Droplets. So the reason why I play these 2 non-engine is because Molcharmy is actually pretty good for your deck. It's the only hand trap that synergizes with your deck the best, because not only does it help you when you use this effect, not only does it help you draw into more non-engine, but also engine to help you break the board, because your engine naturally can break boards, which is also why this deck is strong right now. But against the best deck, this is the best hand trap against them as well. But this is the best hand trap for your deck because it's an Aqua monster, and a lot of people don't know you can make Kaleido Heart with a Tearlaments Rhino Heart and 2 Aqua monsters. It doesn't need Tearlaments monsters, it needs Aqua monsters. So this helps you make Kaleido Heart easier. But not only that, it is a water level 4. So you can make Bahamut Shark with this card as well. So this card is actually really good for your deck. For all of its... the only thing that's bad is the stats, because it has no synergy with the stats. Everything else, the typing, the attribute, and the level is really good for your deck. So this is why I played this one. And 3 Forbidden Droplets. So you have a lot of cards to discard to get value out of this card. You have a lot of normal spells. You also have a lot of trap cards that you don't want in the hand. So this card getting free value in this deck is like, it's always getting free value in this deck. And this card being able to stop Dweller is very important as well. So you definitely need a card like this. Obviously, it's fine going first. You ideally don't want to draw it, but it's way better going second. This card is like so good going second. So yeah, you definitely need it for Dweller though. Like you definitely need this card for Dweller. And then the non-engine that's good going first and second for the last cards in my deck are 3 Thrust, 3 Triple Tactics Talent, and a Call by the Grave. And that is it for my deck. The main deck is 60 cards, so this is the last form of my non-engine. As you can see, I play a lot of non-engine. I play 16 non-engine slots. If people don't consider Fenrir a non-engine, then I play 13, but I consider Fenrir a non-engine, so that's 9 with the Fenrirs, Molcharmies, and Droplets, and this is 7, so that's 16. But let me explain these. So Thrust is insane. Yeah. This card's insane game 1 because people also main deck Bystials and Nibiru. So when they Nibiru you, when they Bystial you, and then you can resolve Thrust, Search Grass, that's broken. But even if they don't do that, if they just Ash or Veiler you, you can still set Black Hole Laughs or Meta Noise with this card game 1. So it's still really good going first. And going second, obviously, it's always Searching Grass or Talents if you already have Grass. Or like Foolish Burial Goods, it could search like another starter. And then post-side deck, it has another target too. So yeah, this card's absolutely insane. Mandatory 3 for your deck. And then this card, I don't see it often, unfortunately. I see Thrust a lot though. This card I've drawn like the most in my deck, I'm pretty sure. Like I always see this card for some reason. This card I never see though. In fact, I've seen Call by the Grave more than I've seen Talents. But yeah, obviously when you resolve Talents in this deck is insane. But it's good going first and second for your deck, because right now Talents is good going second as a board breaker and into Ryziel. Into Malice, it's not like crazy as a board breaker because they don't really set up a crazy board that's like auto loses to Talents. But Ryziel do, because you can just take their Caesar, take a Detonator, which is really strong. But also you can use it to draw 2 cards going first or second, and look at your opponent's hand as well to get rid of the hand traps. So yeah, all 3 effects are really good on this card for this deck. And the Call by the Grave is really important right now because a lot of people, I've seen a Spike and Joel Lockbird, which that hand trap can cook you in some hands, so you need it for that. But in general, it's a really solid card to just help you play the game going first. And that's the goal with all of these cards, is that they punish your opponent for interacting with you. Same thing with this. And that's why you play it. And also post side, it stops Shifter as well against Malice. So yeah, that is it for my main deck. 60 cards, beautiful 60 cards. Hopefully my explanations made sense to you. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. But I'm gonna move on to the extra deck because this video is already pretty freaking long. So for the extra deck, I play 1 Fiendsmith Requiem, 1 Sequence, 1 Closed Moon, 1 SP, and 1 Sprint for the Link monsters. So I want to talk about this card. This card is the best card of my. This card is the best Link monster in my deck. Just for its effect. Its effect of being able to send a level 2 monster is broken main deck and post side deck because I have Scatter Shot as well. So this card is the best Link monster in my side deck. This card won me so many games for no reason. This card's broken. This card is the second best card. This card is also really strong because going first you never end on this card, but going second, or when you go first and they pass back to you, like they try and break your board and then pass back to you, this card breaking boards actually insane. This card is crazy because this card can clear back row, it can clear monsters, it can clear field spells, it can clear follow up in the graveyard, and it can basically clear a threat as well, or play around impermanence, or play around Nibiru. Like this card is just ridiculous in your deck. And then obviously three of the Fiendsmith Link monsters. With Moon, you actually make it twice in your combo because you'll make Moon first to summon this, and then you'll make Moon a second time to summon this. Because the first Moon will make this, and then Engraver will put back the Moon to make the second Moon and Engraver. And Sequence. So yeah, because in certain combos, if you don't have access to Malicious, you have to use your Engraver and overlay with it with Pilgrim Reaper, so you won't have access to another Light Fiend, so you have to make the Moon again in order to get access to the Light Fiend to make this. So that's why you sometimes have to make it twice, but still really strong. And then for the fusions, play Kaleido Heart, the best boss monster in your deck. This card's insane. It's very annoying to get rid of too this format because a lot of cards either send like Desiree or pop like Detonator. So Kaleido Heart's really good into that because yeah, it'll just trigger the Kaleido's effect, bring it back, dump a tier card, spin a card on summon. Really strong card. Very annoying to deal with. The best way to deal with it is obviously SP banish it, but a lot of decks are not playing SP right now. So now I play Gorilla. I make this card a couple times. It comes up to chain block certain things or to OTK your opponent, because this with Planet means it does 4k damage direct, because Planet boosted this by 500, and this card does double damage, which a lot of people forget. So yeah, this card's really good. Mud Dragon is MVP. This card is so freaking good. Oh my god, this card put in so much work. The fact that this card just makes all your waters untargetable is crazy, but you can change its attribute obviously. So like against like post side deck, when you're in time, you can call fire before you summon this to play around Imperm, and if you have Desiree on the board already, that can play around other cards too. But yeah, it's like this card just being a water monster too to make your Bahamut Shark Toad is insane. But its effect to make things untargetable is also insane. So you can play around impermanence on your Rhino Heart and Tier Cash, and then you could change its attribute after you resolve their effects to play around impermanence against other things. So yeah, this card is definitely MVP. So good card. Such a good card. This card you barely end on. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to because you don't have another Aqua to make this. So you just end on this instead. And when you do, you can use its effect twice. Because you can use this effect to negate, right? If you end on this card, use this effect to negate, right? And then you mill a Rhino Heart, or you have access to mill a Rhino Heart, right? And you have a way to fusion summon twice basically on your opponent's turn. You can make a Mud Dragon. You can put this back, make Mud Dragon, and then put this back, make Dragospellia again. And then you can use this to negate again. So you can get 2 negates out of this card if you end on it sometimes. But usually you just make it on your opponent's turn as an extra interruption on top of your board. So really strong card. And then the Necroquip. This card's broken because it guarantees you a dark monster in the graveyard to make Mud Dragon when you make it. But not only that, it guarantees you a draw too, usually every time you make it. So this card's super strong for your deck. And the Desiree, obviously. This card's so versatile for your deck. Like, you can use its send effect for your cards too. Like, there's a couple times where I send my Trivia Karma or I send my Kaleido Heart and trigger their effects, which is really good. But also just this card as an end board piece is broken because it's just such a good card. Being able to negate talents and stuff like that. It can negate Dark Ruler too, because a lot of people don't know you can just, when they Dark Ruler you, just chain your Sulliek, and then chain this to negate the Dark Ruler. So, yeah, like, for example, in tournament, my opponent Ultimate Slayered, targeted my Kaleido, I chained Sulliek, and then I chained Desiree to negate it. Because if you were to resolve my thing, then he would have outed my Kaleido, and my trap card would have been dead. So yeah, that would have been pretty bad. But yeah, Desiree being able to do plays like that is really insane. That is it for the fusions. And then the last ones are the Xyzs, which are Toad, Shark. Don't gotta explain. This is my third best boss monster. The reason why it's my third is because usually this card gets negated. So you don't really bring this out. Obviously, it's the best one because its effect is broken. But in terms of like reality, like these cards, you make more than this card, even though this card's better. But these cards are like more harder to stop from making than this card, because this card is very vulnerable to Imperm and Veiler, or effect negation in general. So yeah, but when you do resolve this card, get this out. It's so good. It's just so good. Because not only is like, okay, so a lot of people don't know that you don't have to leave the turtle on board. Like you can, there's a play that you can do where you make Shark, detach, summon Toad, and then link these two off right away into a Sprint. And if you have Rhino Heart in graveyard, you can make Kaleido Heart, trigger the Toad to put back the Shark, and then use Kaleido, put this back so you can make it again later and end on Kaleido as well if you need to out something, which is, I did that a couple of times. But this as an end board piece is just super strong because being able to get anything and take it and add back a Tear Cache or a Rhino Heart from the graveyard is broken. So yeah, Toad is crazy. And then I play for the last ones are Pilgrim Reaper and Vampire. There's no need to play Caesar in your deck because Caesar does nothing. You already play around Nibiru, and it's not a crazy interruption against Rizio. So there's no reason to play Caesar. Just play this instead. And always go for this because milling 5 for your deck is really good. And milling 5 for your opponent is really good too because you get to see what they're playing. So you can basically combo accordingly. And the Vampire you only play because of the Horus cards. Other than that, you will never make it. But this card's pretty funny because a lot of people forget its effect. If you talents take their monster that has a level, you can use one of your Horus cards and overlay with the monster you took because that monster is considered a level 8 now. Any monster that you take from your opponent that has a level, you can treat it as a level 8 and make this card, which is funny. But the funniest thing is that they can never SP banish this card because this card can only be targeted by monsters that are special summoned from the graveyard. It cannot be targeted from monsters that are not special summoned from the graveyard. So yeah, be wary of that effect and be mindful of that effect because it can actually win you games. Which that effect did win me a game because my opponent tried to do that exact play, go SP banish it, and I'm like, bro, you can't target this. He's like, what? Shit, I just lose now because I wasted my resources going to SP to out this when I can't even fucking out it. So yeah, be wary of that effect. But other than that, if you don't draw Horus, you don't make it. So that's it for my extra deck. Extra deck's pretty standard. It's very tight. Obviously, there's way more cards that you wish you could play. Like I wish I could play the Charmers, like Lina and Dark. I wish I could play Access Code. I wish I could play an IP. I wish I could play another Kaleido Heart, another Dragos Pelia sometimes. I wish I could play an Ag Monday. I wish I could play a Redoer, a Dugaris, a Wallow. Like there's Typhon. Typhon is probably the 16th card in my extra deck. If I were to add like one more card to my extra deck, it would probably be Typhon because it's just really good right now and it comes up a lot. But you could play without it. So, yeah. Now for my side deck. So the best card in my side deck is this guy. This card won me so many games because the thing is that my deck takes 10 minutes to play its turn. And going second, it takes even longer because I have to break a board. So it might take like 20 minutes. So game one, my game ones, if me and my opponent draw playable, it's gonna be a long game. So I'm gonna go into time a lot, which this card comes up in, and it's very strong for your deck because you can mill it naturally, but you can also just directly send it with Sprint, which is why this it has to be this card and not any other one. And then for hand traps, because you still gotta play hand traps for Malice, since you can see my main deck I play 0 hand traps for Malice, and the board breakers don't really do anything against Malice. So I play 3 Lancia, 3 Meowlis, and these are supposed to be Fuwalos, but I don't have Fuwalos, so this is the replacement that I'm playing. But these should definitely be Fuwalos, so I have 9 cards to basically stop Malice. This card makes it so that Malice cannot play the game. This card makes it so that if they do play the game, they'll give me crazy amounts of advantage, so they'll probably won't play the game under this card, which means that this card basically does this card as job as well, and Fuwalos does the same thing as well. Basically stops them from playing, and if they continue, they're just going to give me more cards, which I don't mind anyway, so that's the job. That's basically the theory behind playing these 9 cards. But since I don't have Fuwalos, I've been playing this, and it's been fine. This hasn't been better than Fuwalos. But if you don't have Fuwalos, this is just a budget alternative that you could play. So, yeah, but if you do, definitely play Fuwalos instead of these cards. Because you just need them against Malice. Like, Malice is such a scary matchup for your deck because they also side shift their in against you. So, you just need cards that just stop them from playing. Like, if you just stop Malice from playing, then you could deal with their end board. But if they full combo you, it's just very tough to beat. It is very tough to beat, so that's why you need cards like this to just stop them. And those are for my hand traps. And then my last 5 cards are going first cards, which are 2 Daruma, 2 Barrier, and a Crime. So against Malice, going first, I side in 3 Lancias, the Daruma, and the Crime. Side in these for going first against Malice, and I take out the Molcharmies, and I take out the Droplets. I take out these 6 cards because these cards do nothing going first against Malice, while these cards are broken. And then going first against Yugioh, I side in these 6 cards, and I take out the same 6 because these cards are better. Both of the traps are good into Yugioh, but Barrier's not good into Malice. So you side out Lancia instead. Because this card's going to go first and second against Malice. So yeah. But that's why I played 2 and 2 of the traps. I wish I could play 3, but I literally don't have any room. So that's why it's 2 and 2 for side patterns. And Crime is just, you just need it because there's a lot more board breakers in the format now with Mitsurugi Yugioh in the format. They play Nadir and they play Droplet and we play Thrust and stuff like that. So having the Crime in your side deck now is actually way more important than the formats before when everyone was playing hand traps. I feel like you don't need a side Crime. If the format everyone's just playing hand traps, that means you won't even get to the Crime or the Crime won't even matter. But in a format where they're playing more board breakers, Crime becomes way more valuable because it just stops any board breaker in their tracks. So yeah. Other than that, that is it for the deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this profile. I went very in depth. This is a long video. I do apologize for how long I've been rambling for, but I gotta ramble because people want explanations, man. Like, when I look at a deck profile and I don't get any explanations, I'd be tight. I'm like, yo, bro, at least explain to me why these cards are in your deck. I always want to know the explanation. Because just, like, a good player wants to know the explanation so they know why they're playing this card in this deck. They don't want to play a card in their deck and they don't know what it's for. They need to know what it's for, so that's why I've explained everything, every single card choice, and the reasons why I play the cards in my deck. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you come by my channel again to get more in-depth profiles because I love doing these. I love explaining the card choices and why I play them. And I want to hear your feedback as well, so please tell me what you think of this deck. And go try it for yourself if you want to play this deck because I'm telling you, bro, this deck will surprise you on how well it can do. It surprised everyone at my tournaments that I've been playing. Like, everyone was shocked that Tears in the finals or Tears topping or Tear top the Tier top the tournament. Tier 1 the tournament. Tiers at top tables. What the hell is going on? Literally, everyone asked me in a format where either every deck is making Dweller or every deck is fighting Shifter, and you're still cooking everybody. I'm like, yeah, because I'm the fucking tier GOAT. I'm the Tearlament GOAT. In my city, I'm the Tearlament GOAT, so yeah. Try this deck out for yourself. Let's see what you think. Otherwise, this is APJ signing off. Deuces!